Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. As you know, we do this radio show every week, but tonight is special in that this broadcast is going out over Armed Forces Radio to all of our troops throughout the field. Yes, the war is over, but there's still quite some cleaning up to do. As our studio audience, you play a role in this production. Of course, we'd love you to laugh, cry, and applaud when the spirit moves you. But in case the spirit doesn't move you at just the right time, we have a prompt for you. Great. Now, let's create a little radio magic. Let's multiply our numbers and make us sound like a much larger audience. Clap twice as fast, like this. Excellent. Now, let's practice with something to clap about. If you have served in the armed forces of our country at any time, will you please stand? We'd like to thank you for your service. Please refrain from flash photography, silence your cell phones, and set your watches back to 1951.
10 seconds to air.
Goodness, that's not good luck. Okay, sit back and enjoy the show.
5, 4, 3.
You're listening to RVHS Radio Theater. Colgate Dental Cream, to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. And Palmolive Shave Creams, for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave. Bring you Our Miss Brooks, transcribed and starring Reese Evenhus. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Katelyn Birmingham. Well, like most school teachers, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, has been exposed to her share of puppy love.
I'll say I have. It's getting so I can't look a puppy in the face without flinching. But the kids at school are nothing compared to the case I discovered at home between my landlady, Mrs. Davis, and Horace Barlow, the school's new basement custodian. Although she met him and got us school tea, up until Thursday morning at breakfast, she kept denying anything but a passing interest in him. Please, Connie, just because Horace Barlow has been over a few times is no reason for people to jump to conclusions. My goodness, Horace isn't jumping to conclusions. At his age, Horace is lucky if he can limp to conclusions. But I've seen you two together, Mrs. Davis. As far as I'm concerned, I think of Mr. Davis as just a real nice boy. And he is, too. A real nice 68-year-old boy. He happens to be 54, Connie. He told me so himself. I know, Mrs. Davis, and Jack Benny is 39. Not that I'm criticizing your friendship. Far from it. I'm delighted that Horace is so genuinely fond of you. Oh, Connie, Horace doesn't even know I'm alive. Well, don't let that worry you. It's hard to tell about him most of the time. Anyway, I'm not interested in anything but the most casual relationship. Heavens, if I were thinking seriously, I'd try and find a thing or two about the man, wouldn't I? Haven't you? Definitely not. I'm not even mildly curious. I haven't the slightest idea where he keeps his $10,000 life month's insurance policy, and I have no knowledge whatsoever how he got his leg wounded in the Mexican War, for which he gets a $53 a month pension. I don't even know what bank he keeps his $2,619 saving account. Shame on you. You haven't even got his social security number. It's 498265. Oh, that's Walter Denton. He's taking me to school today. Be right there, Walter. Now, is there anything you want me to say to Mr. Barlow for you if I happen to see him at school? Not a thing, Connie. Okay. There's no necessity of even mentioning to him that I'm not busy tonight. I see. And there's no need for any remarks about the cake I'm baking today being too big for one person to finish alone. I'll be as silent as the tomb. And above all, it would be utterly shameless if you were to hear that I don't want to waste the box of cigars I bought yesterday. You can trust me implicitly, Mrs. Davis. I won't say a word to Mr. Barlow. I'll just hit him on the head and drag him home. I'm glad you picked me up early this morning, Walter. I've got an errand to do for Mrs. Davis before my first class.
I'll get you there with the speed of a gazelle, Miss Brooks. Oh, by the way, how's Mrs. Davis's romance with Mr. Barlow coming along?
Oh, have you noticed that too? I think it's the cutest thing in the world. Mrs. Davis actually has a bad case of puppy love.
It is cute, considering she's in her second puppyhood. No disrespect intended. You understand. After all, what can be more romantic than two lonely old people encountering the grand passion in the sere and yellow leaf of life?
Why, that's absolutely poetic, Walter.
The burning desires of youth long past. They look now for the subdued glow of companionship, the warm and simple pleasures that two elderly people in love can share together.
I can see them now, soaking their feet in the same pan of Epsom salts.
I bet you'd like to find romance at that age, Miss Brooks.
At the rate I'm going now, I'm counting on it. But Walter, I just assume you don't mention the subject at school. It might be a source of embarrassment to Mr. Barlow.
My trap is sealed, Miss Brooks. Now, what's the errand you're going to do for Mrs. Davis this morning?
Well, off the record, I'm going to invite Mr. Barlow over to the house tonight. He's been a little backward about asking for a date.
I get it. You're Mrs. Davis's Cupid. Now, all you've got to do is to get Mr. Barlow to invite Mr. Boynton over and you're all set.
Meeting's adjourned.
Hi, Miss Brooks. You're pretty early today, aren't you?
Hello, Harriet. I've got to deliver a message to the custodian. Have you seen him?
Oh, yes. Mr. Barlow. This one is his office. Isn't it wonderful? Miss Brooks?
I don't know. I've never been in his office.
I mean, about Mr. Barlow and Miss Davis, they're crazy about each other. Of course. It's a big secret.
Couldn't be a bigger secret if they took it on an ad.
Is there anything more romantic than a mellow romance in old age?
Now, please, Harriet.
To think of two people finding love at a time of life when others are preparing to pass on?
Yes, there's nothing like a brisk walk before passing on.
Well, I won't keep you any longer. 4 feet, it's from me to delay Miss Davis and misery of love. Good luck in your mission, Cupid.
Thank you, Harriet.
Come in.
I hope I'm not disturbing you, Mr. Barlow, but there's something I want to ask you.
Well then, go ahead and ask. You want to get apples, you gotta shake the tree. What is it?
It's just this. I was wondering if tonight, that is, if you haven't any other plans, Mrs. Davis isn't doing anything, and I'm sure she'd be pleased if you wanted to drop over.
Well, that's right neighborly. Would you like me to drop over?
Of course, I'm sure you and Mrs. Davis will have a lovely evening together.
Are you planning on staying in, Miss Brooks?
I suppose so, Mr. Barlow, but I'm sure that at your age, you don't need any chaperone.
You're right about that. Maybe we could send Mrs. Davis to a movie.
Send Mrs. Davis to a movie?
Sure. Oh, there's no sense in me trying to hide it any longer. Well, the only reason I've been coming around Mrs. Davis's place is to be near you.
Near me? But you've been making dates with Mrs. Davis.
Well, naturally, you gotta slip the drones a little, honey, if you want to get next to the queen bee.
You, Mr. Barlow, are barking up the wrong hive. This is ridiculous. I simply can't believe it's even happening.
I couldn't believe it myself. I just couldn't understand the feeling that swept over me when I first saw you, Miss Brooks. In fact, I've had my glasses changed twice. But there's still the same. I keep asking myself, where have you been all my life?
For 3/4 of it, I wasn't even born. Look, Mr. Barlow, there's a great difference in our ages.
Ah, nonsense, Miss Brooks. I just don't believe in age.
Well, neither do I. I've been standing up for years. I mean, if you'll think this over for a while, you'll realize that it just couldn't work out.
Oh, why not? Is there somebody else in your front parlor playing the piano?
No, but Mr. Boynton plays the ukulele on my back porch. We've been going together for quite a while now.
You mean that biology fella? Ah, shucks. He's just an unsophisticated kid. Hey, you couldn't even warm him up if you stuck a Bunsen burner under him.
You've been peeking. That is, Mr. Boynton's just shy about expressing his feelings.
He ain't got no feelings if you ask me. Leastwise, not like I have, especially since I met you. Why, I just knew today was gonna bring some excitement into my life. I got the strangest sensation right after breakfast.
Maybe something fell into your parole.
There's no two ways about it, sis. I'm smitten.
Well, would it unsmit you if I told you I'm engaged to Mr. Boynton?
Engaged? But he wasn't even over at your place the last time I visited Mrs. Davis.
He must have been working. If you come over tonight, I'm sure he'll be there.
Well, seeing is believing. I'll drop by, Miss Brooks, but I still say, when it comes to you bringing messages from Mrs. Davis, speak for yourself, Cupid.
There's no use talking. These wings have got to go.
Colgate Dental Cream cleans your breath while it cleans your teeth. And the Colgate Way stops tooth decay best. Yes, the Colgate Way is the most thoroughly proved and accepted home method of oral hygiene known today. Over 2 years research showed brushing teeth right after eating with Colgate Dental Cream helps stop more decay for more people than ever before reported in dentifrice history. The Colgate Way stops tooth decay best. No other dentifrice, ammoniated or not, offers such conclusive proof. And you should know that Colgate, while not mentioned by name, was the only toothpaste used in research on tooth decay, recently reported in Reader's Digest. So, always follow the Colgate Way to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and stop tooth decay best.
Brush your teeth with Colgate. Colgate Dental Cream and clean your breath while toothpaste. While clean your teeth.
And the Colgate Way stops tooth decay best. Now, back to our Miss Brooks, starring Reese Evenhus.
Well, I was quite chagrined to find out that Horace Barlow was more interested in me than he was in Mrs. Davis. This is one triangle I was determined would not be eternal, not even overnight. Therefore, at lunchtime, I headed to Mr. Boynton's table in the cafeteria, but just as I got halfway to it, "Oh, Mr. Conklin, I'm terribly sorry, sir."
You're slipping, Miss Brooks. You only knocked 2 dishes off my tray today.
I guess I didn't watch where I was going.
Obviously. When you do, you get the whole tray.
Well, luckily nothing happened to your apple pie. The plate is broken, but the pie's intact. Here.
Thank you. Even more luckily, nothing seems to have gotten on my clothes.
No, sir. I've never seen you look so neat. White carnation and all.
I spoke too soon. That's vanilla ice cream.
This never would have happened, sir, but I'm terribly preoccupied today.
This must be preoccupied day at Madison High. We've had nothing but trouble with our new school custodian for the same reason.
You mean Mr. Barlow?
Yes. He forgets about the furnace. He forgets to fix the pipes. The old goat acts as if he was in love.
Maybe he is in love.
But who could a 70-year-old codger be in love with?
He happens to be 54.
Yes, Jack Benny is 39. Horace Barlow in love. At his age, he probably can't tell the difference between a woman and a kangaroo.
Probably not. Well, if you'll excuse me, I'll be hopping off to lunch. No doubt I'll run into you later in the day, Mr. Conklin.
It is with that thought in mind that I carry every possible form of accident and hospitalization insurance. Good day, Miss Brooks.
Good day, Mr. Conklin. He's got a lot of nerve. Just because a person's lived a few more years than some other person.
I don't like to interrupt, Miss Brooks, but if you keep talking to yourself, you'll make an eavesdropper out of me.
I'm sorry, Walter. I've had a little shock this morning. You see, I spoke to Horace Barlow a short time ago about making a date with Mrs. Davis.
What did he say?
He said he's not interested in Mrs. Davis. He's smitten with somebody else.
Somebody else? But he can't do that to Mrs. Davis. She's a very sensitive lady. She's nuts about it. She'll be terribly hurt.
That's what I'm afraid of.
He doesn't know when he's well off. I'd like to see the hunk of crowbait he's falling for.
Now, just a minute, Walter. It so happens that Mr. Barlow thinks he's in love with me.
With you? But that's illegal. It's unthinkable.
Let's just call it unusual. Actually, Walter, I'm extremely worried about the situation. Mrs. Davis and I have been friends for too long to let anything like this come between us.
Well, why don't you just tell Barlow to go peddle his papers?
I did, practically. I even told him I was engaged to Mr. Boynton. That's what I'm worried about. They're both coming over tonight, and I've got to prove it.
Well, what's so tough about that? I'm sure Mr. Boynton will cooperate.
You are?
Sure. For a night.
Oh.
Now, the next thing you gotta do is get Mrs. Davis out of the house tonight. Because if she caught you and Mr. Boynton acting as if you were engaged, she'd know something was rough in Denmark.
What a sweet way to put it. But Walter, how do I get Mrs. Davis out of the house?
Well, easy. There's an old bachelor friend staying at the house for a couple of days, a Mr. Gordon. I'm sure he'd like a date with a nice, clean-cut character like Mrs. Davis. And I'll ask her to go out with him as a favor, I suppose.
What about Mr. Barlow? She expects him tonight.
Well, just tell him. He couldn't make it. Say his blood pressure hit a new high or something. Now, you go call Mr. Boynton, and I'll call home and make sure Mr. Gordon's available to act as David's wait for the night. See you later, Miss Brooks.
All right, Walter, and thanks. Oh, Mr. Boynton, I've got to talk to you right away.
Oh, what's wrong, Miss Brooks?
It's about Mrs. Davis. You know, she's got a crush on the school custodian, Mr. Barlow, but unfortunately, he's head over heels in love with somebody else.
Please, Miss Brooks, don't make me laugh while I'm drinking coffee. Mr. Barlow's an old man. What kind of shriveled up prune could he fall for?
Why does that have to be a prune? For all you know, he could be crazy about a nice, young, firm, fuzzy peach. Besides, he's only 48.
Why, he's 70 at least, and not what you'd call in prime condition. Why, his hypothyroidism is apparent, and his insipid arteriosclerosis masking cardiac decompensation was evident to me after one glance.
It's good you didn't take a second glance. He'd be a goner. The truth is, Mr. Boynton, that Mr. Barlow has been coming to our place just to be near me. If I know you were going to get so excited, I would have worn my raincoat. Here, use this napkin.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Brooks, but I couldn't help exploding. You mean to tell me that Mr. Barlow is in love with you?
That's right. We hypothyroids have to stick together. Look, Mr. Boynton, I know it's an absurd situation, but my only real concern is Mrs. Davis. I've got to discourage Mr. Barlow once and for all, and you've got to help me.
Me? What could I do?
Well, he's coming over to our place tonight. I invited him on behalf of Mrs. Davis. That's when he told me how he felt about me, and that's when I told him something utterly fantastic.
What did you tell him?
That you and I were engaged to be married? Here's the napkin.
Engaged to be married. Miss Brooks, that is utterly fantastic.
I'm glad I said it first. Don't you see, Mr. Boynton? This is very important to someone who's very important to me. Mrs. Davis is just about the best friend I've got.
Well, I guess if that's the case, Miss Brooks, the least I can do is cooperate.
Will you really, Mr. Boynton?
Sure. For a night.
Oh. That must be Mr. Barlow. Just make yourself comfortable. I'll let him in.
Well, here I am, Brooksy. Fit as a fiddle and twice as musical.
Come in, Mr. Barlow. I fixed a little dinner this evening for my fiancé. We've just finished eating it. Follow me, won't you?
Your fiancé? Didn't you mean you actually...
Hello, darling. Did you miss me?
Miss you?
I hated to leave you alone for so many seconds, but I just had to let Mr. Barlow in. You remember Mr. Barlow, don't you, dear?
Oh, of course. How are you, Mr. Barlow?
Snappy as a cookie and twice as full of ginger. But let's get to the point. Miss Brooks here told me that you two are engaged. Is that true?
Well, yes. Yes, it is.
Then how come nobody around school's heard anything about it?
Because we wanted it that way. We've been secretly engaged for over 6 months now. Haven't we, darling?
We certainly have, Miss Brooks.
Miss Brooks? What does he call you Miss Brooks if you're going to be married?
He doesn't like any display of affection in front of company. Let's sit down, shall we? Mr. Barlow, drop a chair, won't you? And sweetheart, you drop a chair, and we'll sit down.
But Miss Brooks, I worked out the basketball team yesterday, and my knees are a bit weak.
Maybe you foul, but I'll never get a shot like this again. Sit down, dear. There we are. Comfy?
Yeah.
Seems mighty strange to me. Most engaged folk I've seen act a little more demonstrative than you do.
But we're mad for each other, aren't we, darling?
Yeah. Mad.
You know, dearie, you haven't kissed me in 5 minutes.
What?
I said you haven't kissed me in 5 minutes. What are we gonna do about that?
Let's wait another 5, huh?
What's the matter, darling? You want to kiss me, don't you?
Maybe it's me, Miss Brooks.
No, I'm positive he doesn't want to kiss you. Oh, you mean he doesn't want to kiss me in your presence? I'm sure that wouldn't stop my great big handsome lover boy, would it, dearest?
Well, certainly not. Give me your cheek. There.
Wow. Now how about one to get me down off the ceiling?
Maybe I ought to go.
But why, Mr. Barlow? You just got here.
But want to be interrupting something?
Only if you go. I mean, stick around a little while longer. I'll see who it is. Don't move, either of you. Sorry to disturb you, Connie, but I forgot my key again. Mrs. Davis, what are you doing home so early? Here, let me help you off with your coat and eyeglasses. Oh, Mr. Gordon just showed me the most wonderful time, Connie. But he has a business appointment first thing in the meeting, so we had to cut our date a bit short. Who's that in the living room? That's Mr. Boynton. Oh, I see him. The man in the other chair? That's Mr. Boynton, too. He's awfully restless tonight. Oh, now I see who that is. It's Mr. Barlow. But you told me he wasn't coming over tonight. He must have changed his mind. Listen, Mrs. Davis, when two people have a beautiful friendship, they've got to do everything in their power to keep it from breaking up, right? Let's talk later, dear. I've got to get these shoes off at once. Mr. Gordon just danced my tootsies into a stupor. He's a wonderful man, Connie. That's why I want you to do me a little favor. A favor? Yes, when you go back into the living room. What do you want me to do, Mrs. Davis?
Brush off that other old creep, will ya?
You mean Mr. Barlow?
Yes, I haven't the heart to hurt his feelings.
Well, that'll save a lot of explanations, I guess, but I know I'm going to get two birds with one stone.
What do you mean, Connie?
As soon as the old duck is gone, my little lovebird will fly off like a wounded pelican.
Reese Evenhus. Our Miss Brooks returns in a moment, but first.
The case of the clothes scrape, featuring Michael Sawyer. Here's what Mr. Sawyer told us. Listen.
Here's exactly what happened. Shaving just became one close scrape after another for me. And then I discovered Palmolive's leather shave cream in a new, different way to shave. Palmolive's oceans of rich, thick leather ended my worries about scrapes, nicks, and burns. Why, even the cold or hard water with Palmolive leather is super smooth, super comfortable.
Take Michael Sawyer's advice, men. The new palm olive leatherway gets beards really soft, and it provides a protective film that actually floats your razor's cutting edge. You get a clean, close shave every time, without worry of scraping or nicking, even in cold or hard water. Michael Sawyer and 1,200 other men tested palm olive lather cream, following package directions, and 3 out of 4 reported smooth, more comfortable shaves. The palm olive shave cream wiped, no matter how they shaved before. Better yet, palm olive leather shave cream. Remember, even in cold or hard water, the palm olive leatherway means smoother, more comfortable shaves.
And once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, I told Mr. Barlow that Mrs. Davis had returned home with a bad headache, and he left the house after threatening to call her up very soon. Then, as I was about to barricade the door against Mr. Boynton's next move, he addressed me.
Well, I'm sorry that Mrs. Davis isn't feeling well, Miss Brooks. Is she lying down in her room?
Yes, she is, Mr. Boynton.
Well, that just leaves the two of us then, doesn't it?
Yes, but don't be nervous. It's much too early for you to think of leaving.
I wasn't thinking of leaving, Miss Brooks. You and I still have plenty of unfinished business to attend.
Unfinished business?
Well, certainly.
You and I?
That's right. After all, somebody's got to do those theater dishes. Why don't you wash and I'll dry?
Better still, you wash and dry. I've got another engagement.
Another engagement?
Sure. If I hurry, I can catch Mr. Barlow before he gets on the bus.
This is Jonah Mercer, inviting you to tune in next week for another Our Miss Brooks show, brought to you by Palmolive Shave Cream, for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, and Colgate Dental Cream, to clean your breath while you clean your teeth, and help stop tooth decay. Our Miss Brooks, starring Reese Evenhus, is produced by KRVHS, written by Al Lewis with the music of Wilbur Hatch.